This is not a test. This is your emergency podcast system announcing the commencement of the annual horror movie reviews, sanctioned by the Politipop podcast. Headphones of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during October. All other podcasts are restricted. Movies without social commentary have been granted immunity and shall not be reviewed. Commencing at the siren, any and all hot takes, including ours, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Social media, friends, and other distractions will be unavailable until this review concludes. Blessed be Politipop, a podcast reborn. May Marx be with you all.
Welcome to the Politipop podcast, the podcast where we take your favorite socially woke / horror / maybe torture porn franchises and discuss the social and political themes within. I am your co-host, Mike Booch, and, well, let's hope you don't wrong me for when Purge time comes around. Please give it up for Ty.
Hey.
That's right, and we are here getting ready to review the Purge election year. Rhyme unintentional. While we are reviewing this movie specifically, we will be going into... or more, I will be going into, because I found a 4 DVD set of all the movies at Walmart and had to watch all of them.
What?
Yeah, that's right. That's how I handle it. And because one of us is working and the other is me, I had time to watch all of them and actually, take notes on all of them. So I'll be going in and out of election year and the other 3 films, if that's cool with you, Ty.
That's great. I mean, I saw the first 2 films as well. I had time to rewatch election year, so it's a lot more familiar to me at the moment. But I'll jump in when I can for the other ones as well.
You always say that when we do our orgies, too. But before we move forward, I want to let everybody know that you can rate and review us without donating a penny.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yes, rate and review us. It's free to do. All it takes is a little bit of your time, which in itself is actually a very valuable resource because it's the one thing you can never earn back. But please, that's why it means so much to us. So rate and review us on any of the platforms you are listening to our podcast on. It means a lot. It helps get us up there in the algorithms. That way new listeners can see our podcast come up. Also, like and subscribe our... Also, check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe to the page, like our videos, and have access to exclusive content that we don't release in podcast form. Find us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod, find us on Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast, and email us at politipopcast@gmail.com to let us know your thoughts, give us your reviews that you definitely put on the podcast platform you're listening to us on. And also, you can find our show notes and sources at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com because, listen, we're not making this shit up. We're not coming up with uneducated opinions. And if we do have stuff wrong, we'll correct it. But you can find those corrections in the show notes and sources that we supply for you. And let's get into this. Ty, we're going to be moving forward with the Purge election year. I want to make sure that I let everybody know exactly what films we're referring to as which. So when I say the Purge, I mean the first film that came out in 2013.
Yeah, as in the original
Cersei
Purge.
Lannister.
Right.
Yes. When I say the Purge Anarchy or just Anarchy, I'm referring to the second film. And when I say the first Purge, I'm referring to, I believe it's the most recent film, actually.
It is.
Yeah, okay, so I'm referring to the most recent one, and that's, it's a prequel, technically, to the whole series. And of course, when we say, when we're just talking about the movie in general, we're probably talking about election year, which is, the whole thing. And we haven't watched the show yet, but guess what I'm going to be doing this week?
Oh, you're going to be watching that show, aren't you?
No, I'm going to fucking edit this podcast.
Oh, right.
Doing it. And then next week, I'm going to watch the Purge
Yeah,
series.
there you are.
That's right. Available on my DVR and also on Hulu, I believe.
Ooh, Samini, but...
That's right. So, and if you are expecting housekeeping, remember, we're doing those episodes separate now, so head to wherever you're getting their podcast, head to the YouTube channel, and listen to our housekeeping episode for the week of 10/9/2020.
Wow.
Separately from this one. Now, before we move forward, please make sure that you've seen at least one or all of these films. There are going to be detailed plot spoilers, or if you're the kind of person who doesn't even need to watch the film and just want to listen to us go through it play by play, you're more than welcome to do that too. Ty, Give him the plot.
The Purge election year. Former Police Sergeant Barnes becomes head of security for Senator Charlie Roan, a presidential candidate targeted for death on Purge night due to her vow to eliminate the Purge.
Wait a second. I know his name was Sergeant in Anarchy, but he's a former police sergeant?
According to the official plot of the Purge election year. Yes.
No wonder why he was so good at killing people. I don't know. I thought he was at least in the military. You know,
I mean,
like,
he might have been too. They're not saying he wasn't in the military exclusively. You know.
Yeah, they're not saying he was, but they're not saying he wasn't.
But he is former police, so maybe he had enough of their bullshit and he decided to do something.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't see Anarchy, it's important for this. His big arc was that his son was killed by a drunk driver who got off, and then he waited till Purge night to avenge his son's death, decided to let the guy live at the very end because he didn't want to take a father from his family. Yeah. And then that guy who he spared ended up saving him a little later on and taking him to the hospital. So you know, guys,
good karma.
Take care of each other.
Yeah,
it was. Take care of each other. But the Purge election year, this was a wild movie. I do think that I thought it was a little optimistic until the very, very end, to be honest with you. What did you think of it as a whole?
I really enjoyed the film. I thought the Purge, the original film, was not great. Thought it had a lot of issues. I really liked Anarchy, and I thought this was a really good cap to the trilogy. And I think it had some great social commentary that I may have missed the first time I watched this. It's a little bit of an action movie. It's a little bit horror, and it's definitely politically relevant. So I thought it was good overall. Not perfect by any means. It's a little over the top at times, but definitely an enjoyable film.
Yeah, I think they took the Purge and really built on it as the films went on, and I think the reason for that actually, and I have no basis for this, by the way, but in my opinion, the reason would be because people just didn't get it. You know, the Purge came out in 2013, and they were like, "Oh, that's a fun idea." You have a well-to-do family who gets rich off of selling security systems for the annual Purge, and then you have the other people who are also, or wealthy white people who hunt down whoever they want with impunity and kill them on that night, and it's a little game to them. But you also have, you have aspects of morality that go through all the films, and while the first one was more of a thriller, maybe horror flick that's very contained. It takes place in one house.
Yeah, the home invasion film, right? Like Strangers or something like that.
Yeah, like Strangers or Panic Room, or actually it was a good combination of the two.
Yeah,
Strangers and Panic Room. That being said, I've never seen Panic Room, So I think it was kind of like this cautionary tale of like, guys, listen, if we don't take care of everybody, and we don't we don't look out for our marginalized citizens, we could end up passing laws like this. We could have our own it was very subtle if you wanted it. When I first saw it, like you said, I wasn't super into it. When I watched it this time, I was like, oh shit, this is pretty relevant. And then Anarchy went even more insane, and then the Purge election year stuck it right in your fucking face.
Yeah, they did.
They're at the beginning, they're talking about how there are riots in the Capitol happening, and we'll talk about Roan in a sec. But in the beginning, they're talking about how there are riots in the Capitol over, anti-Purge people and pro-Purge people. They're saying, that the Purge has helped because there are fewer and fewer people living below the poverty line. Crime is down. But the one thing they don't want to tell you is that it's because all of the vulnerable people are being killed off in the Purge. They say there's less welfare, less healthcare, less public housing and stuff. But the fact is that it's just they've culled off the people who require those resources and use that money to line the pockets of the 1%. We even see a T-shirt there that says "Hands up, don't shoot," which is what happened after the Mike Brown shooting.
Yeah, this movie's like Mitch McConnell's wet dream. Like this is what he wants. Not to have to worry about the people that are struggling. In America, like why not just kill them off? And let us do it to each other. They don't have to get their hands dirty. And I think this film was very successful, as was Anarchy, because you kind of go into the streets now and you see what's happening. On Purge night, you're seeing people who are fighting for their lives, and they're relatable characters. They're not this rich family hiding out in a house. They're shop owners. They're people trying to treat the injured in a volunteer medical vehicle. They're people that you can root for and get behind, and maybe even see a little of yourself in if you were in this world. And Election Year came out in 2016. So
July 1st, 2016. I just looked it up because I was like, no way they would have the balls to release this when you have like a progressive candidate running against, a wild radical right-wing candidate.
Yep.
There's no way they would release a movie like that months before the election.
But they did. They did.
And this election in particular in the movie is happening between Charlie Roan, who we talked about it off mic, but I've watched a lot of horror movies recently. It's the season, right? 'Tis the season for horror movies, and there's been a Charlie in so many of them. Hereditary had a Charlie. The Purge in 2013 had a Charlie. I watched Fright Night. Charlie Brewster was the main character, and of course now we have the Purge Election Year with a Charlie in it as well.
Do you know what Charlie means in Old English or no?
What does Charlie mean?
I have no idea, but I was curious if you looked it up.
I looked it up. It's a Celtic origin, being short for Charles.
What?
Weird.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah.
No, that's a fucking lie. But Charlie is short for Charles. I'm not sure in the regard of this woman who's running.
Probably not.
Charlie Roan, 18 years ago, her family was being purged by some maniacs who had a purging playlist, which if I was going to do it, I'd probably do something similar. I love my music. And they played George Clinton, "We Want the Funk," which was interesting. George Clinton was also a governor back in the day. He was governor of New York, and he sided with George Washington on a lot of different things. He actually supported Alexander Hamilton in strengthening the federal government. Look how that turned out. Thanks a lot, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her family was being purged, and the last game that these purgers played on that night was letting the mother of the family, the matriarch, decide who gets to live. And I'm a little stupid because originally I thought that she was the mom and she chose herself to live.
Oh.
But her age just doesn't make any sense. And I was like, no, damn it, that's not right. But she was actually chosen out of her family to live. And 18 years later, she has made it her goal to get rid of the Purge. And so there's a lot of Bernie analogies to make.
Yes.
The big one I saw, obviously, other than being a progressive candidate that's anti-establishment, was just that she's been working on this for 18 years.
Yeah, it's her whole life now.
Yeah, and I just want to let listeners know, think of the long game, because we talked about this on our housekeeping episode. Listen to that one too. We talked about it, on our housekeeping episode this week, that it can be exhausting. It can be emotionally exhausting. You might forget that certain things are going on. You overlook certain things because it's just too much. You take a break from social media or the media in general just to take care of yourself, which is absolutely fine. I've been doing the same thing. But make sure that you get back into it and know what's going on, because the long game is what's important. Bernie Sanders has been fighting for the right thing his entire career, continually gets shit on, and still keeps doing it. I can't say if his, Sisyphus-like work ethic has been a good thing or not. But honestly, he's been fighting. If when he first started fighting for civil rights and for the common people, he got shot down and was like, oh, fuck it, you and I never would have heard of him.
No, we wouldn't have.
So think of the long game. Change doesn't come right away. That being said, I'm not a fan of the whole idea of gradual moving to the left. Gradually, things are going to change gradually, blah, blah. Fuck that. Things do have to change. Doesn't have to be gradual, but this may be a fight that's longer than one fucking year.
Yeah, and I think Roan realizes that she's running now for president, and she knows it has to change this way, right? She has to win in order to get this done. And I really talking about comparing her to Bernie, and I really like her in terms of being just a down to earth kind of person. On Purge night, she refuses to hide in a bunker, because she's how can I tell people that they have to try and survive on their own on Purge night, and I'm hiding out. I have to be like them. I'm going to stay at home. She tells Barnes, who's protecting her, one of the main characters from Anarchy, to to secure her house, do the best he can. And it does look like she's living in poverty, right? She has a nice home. She probably does have
she's
some
doing
money.
all right.
Yeah, she's doing all right.
But she is also in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. She's not super far from, from like when the Purge happens that night. Spoiler alert, there's a Purge in this movie. When it does happen, like she isn't far from the streets where shit's going to go down. Like, she's close enough to the common people.
Exactly. Yep. And she's going to win this thing fair and square, as a person who has survived the Purge and has been directly affected by it, and for the people that continue to be directly affected by it.
One thing I found really, I don't know if it was really cool, but after the after the montage exposition dump that they have in the beginning of the film, they're talking about how, like, there's a group of people that are like anti-NFFA. And I was like, oh, that's a short way of saying Antifa. The NFFA are the new founding fathers of America. For those of you who aren't aware of, actually, maybe we should just say the entire environment. Like, so basically, in the universe of The Purge, there was a time of incredible poverty, terrible economic crisis, terrible crime rates, and the new founding fathers of America are a regime of white dudes who came in to save everybody. But they're not the white saviors that we see in movies like Charlie Rowan. They are white saviors who we see in real life, the ones who are actually there to hurt you. And they determined that they were going to try an experiment, and this experiment would let all crime be legal for 12 hours throughout the country, and that would allow people to purge out the evil that we naturally have in our souls. And then for the rest of the year, there would be less crime. But what they don't tell you, and I'm going to go to the movie The First Purge right now, what they don't tell you is that the original experiment didn't go as well as they thought it would have gone.
Really?
So they actually turned the tables on it, and one of the people who was running the experiment, it was all supposed to be Staten Island. That's where it took place. And they found a bunch of people in the poor neighborhoods of Staten Island and paid them $5,000 to stay on the island during the experiment.
Even the Purge is corrupt. like literally the Purge night, right? Like they couldn't even do that just organically. They had to rig it still.
Well, and of course, not only did they pay people to stay and participate in the Purge, which these are poor people of color in the first Purge movie, which is interesting that they're being asked to risk their lives for the economy, which is very similar to how we are with COVID-19.
This is a post-COVID world, I would imagine.
Yeah, but the people running the experiment actually called in like a bunch of white supremacist groups, which we see in this movie too, to start changing things and start making people more violent. So, they were killing people and then people were killing back and things actually got worse. And that's how they were like, listen, people had to kill. You saw how many deaths there were during the experiment? That means the Purge works. And that's how the Purge started. So the entire Purge was started on a lie. And we see in multiple movies, especially election year, that the Purge is used as an excuse for, people's patriotism is used as an excuse to justify the Purge. They say, it's my right as an American, which we hear so often in real life, right?
Yeah.
It's my right as an American to own a gun. It's my right as an American to do this and do that. And, I mean, it is my right as an American to own a gun, obviously.
Yeah.
But no,
these episodes. Throughout the movie, you're right. They constantly say, we'll purge. It's the American way, right? Like, you have people coming from other countries who want to experience, what an American purge night is like. It's so American as a cheeseburger and fries. Like they just
with an apple pie and a good old Coca-Cola to wash it down,
and baseball and.
Yep.
Good old boys. It's just become such a part of society for us as Americans in this film, and the whole world recognizes that.
Yeah, and I want to note that that one of the new founding fathers actually has the same initials of Donald Trump. It's DT. I'm not sure if they mention it in this movie, but they do mention it in one of the others. However, the guy who is running against Charlie Roan in the debate that this movie starts off in, he has a very Trump-like cadence. He's thinner, he's more handsome, he's got brown hair, not fake, blonde mop hair, and he has, Caucasian skin, not orange. But he has a very interesting cadence, and if you watch, I don't know how to explain it, but if you watch the movie, you'll get it. And he also uses like religion as a means to justify the Purge, and he cites the American Revolution and World War II, and saying that, guess what, America has to make sacrifices all the time. We sacrificed Americans for the Revolution. We sacrificed Americans in World War II. So we have to sacrifice people during the Purge. But what kind of people are being sacrificed exactly is the question.
Yeah. It's the people that suffer, the poor, and people of color, as usual, right? As we see in society today.
Yes, yeah, that a lot of the laws that are put in place end up helping one group and marginalizing another. So while everyone is allowed to purge, like all the poor people are also allowed to purge, normally people with level 10 government clearance are not allowed to purge, or they're not allowed to be purged. I'm not sure if they're allowed to purge. They definitely purge. They all have a
they're allowed
mass.
to.
They gather at a church every year for Purge night, and instead of risking their own lives, they have people grab a bunch of have-nots, if you can call them that, or undesirables, and they just purge them all in a very comfortable, sanitized environment. And he is right though. Like, America has always sacrificed people. Like the American Revolution, think about how many slaves and poor people were sacrificed. And it's not like rich people were going to be soldiers. No. Being a soldier was, if you survived, was a means for economic improvement. It was upward mobility for people. And a lot of people don't realize that.
It still is.
Yes, that's very true. It very much is. And even then, you still have homeless vets and stuff. You still have veterans who are forgotten about after they quote unquote fight for our rights, because I don't remember last time my rights were over in Iraq.
They were coming for them eventually. We just got ahead of it.
Yeah. But mostly it is always the poor people who end up having to be sacrificed, whether it's war in real life or the Purge in this universe. And he cites economic ruin too. He says the Purge saved this country from economic ruin, and but like really the people who are ruined economically in the first place didn't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And they keep ignoring that. It's a lot of half truths. And Roan isn't really about letting him get away from it. She says, well, think about the insurance companies that benefit from the Purge, and the NRA that benefits because everybody needs guns and stuff. And I thought of a lot of counterpoints to communism. Like, one of the big counterpoints is that people are naturally greedy, so communism could never work. We would never be able to take care of each other,
right? Because
people are naturally greedy. And it's to me, it's kind of similar that they say people are naturally ugly. They naturally have this rage in their souls that we need to get out. So everybody needs to purge. But I think it's just the fucking sickos that really need to purge, and they're the ones who are benefiting the most from it.
Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't see myself going out on Purge night. Like, I really wouldn't. Definitely not killing people. That's for sure. And these movies definitely they make it too over the top, right? Like, you see some of the craziest people in the streets here.
Yeah, So that's why I mentioned the torture porn at the beginning too, because like the first Purge was a little more sanitized, and even then the director and writer said that he had one draft of the script that was like really sick that only one person ever saw.
Wow.
And they had to water it down a lot to get just even an R rating for that film. But yeah, as it is, it is a movie franchise and they need to one-up everything. So like in Anarchy, they one-upped it. And then in election year, you see Lainey, she's driving around in the medic van trying to help people, and you see that there's a guy who's like right up against their window. He just gets shot in the head with a crossbow bolt.
Yeah.
There's there's people with a guillotine in the alley just fucking decapitating people, which, I mean, if they're billionaires, fine. There was a car that had 3 people strapped to the hood for some reason, and a bunch of people wearing masks. And actually, can I talk about the masks for a quick second?
Sure.
So I had wondered watching this movie if the mask was something that people started off with, or if it came about as the holiday became more sensationalized. What do you think?
I think it probably
people dress up in full costumes.
Yeah, I think it became
Purge.
more sensationalized, right? It's like Halloween. They even say at one point, this is Halloween for adults. The Purge is Halloween for adults. So it's a chance to live out your wildest dream. You want to get this crazy outfit and go murder people on Purge night. You want to get all your friends together and do this, become like a little, they dress like the founding fathers. I mean, they go all over the top with these outfits, these costumes. So no, I don't think that started that way. I think it's become another way to make money off it too, right? Like companies probably sell these costumes, the perfect Purge night outfit, be like the founding fathers, I'm sure they spin in all kinds of ways, and it obviously works, and it works very well.
Two things. One, I didn't like that guy because Halloween is already Halloween for adults.
Agreed.
But
I
two,
love Halloween.
right?
I love it.
Yeah, I know. But in the first Purge, they noted during the experiment that people started wearing their own masks. The first night, the first experiment, people were wearing masks, which blew me away. But it kind of does make sense because a lot of these people are also very ashamed.
Yeah. Do you mean like Halloween masks or like
No, I mean like fucking crazy masks. I mean like wild, extravagant masks. Like not just a ski mask or something.
Yeah, because that's what I would have thought, just to hide their identity, not so much to like get into the spirit. Interesting. Okay.
I think it is an American thing, though. It's just kind of in our nature to sensationalize stuff. Like we had Trump run for president, and now everyone's wearing Trump stuff, and it's a marketing thing. He's not just a president; he's a brand. I mean, he always kind of has been.
Yeah,
but this is probably his most successful brand yet, right?
It's his definitely he hasn't had a lot of success, to be honest. So this was this was a big one for him.
The bar was low. Not to be confused with his lawyer, But yeah, think about like the 4th of July too. How it became a celebration of how it started as a celebration of independence, and then it became like American flag bikinis, American flag shirts, socks. What was it? Celebrating my freedom every day. Like there's so many things that are meant to push the brand of the United States rather than the actual values or the actual practices that it's a part of.
Well, it's a capitalist country, right? And that's what it's always going to come down to. How can money be made off of people? I mean, during COVID, you had people stockpiling hand sanitizer and things like that and trying to sell them at like 7 times the price. If there's a way to make money off it, Americans will do it. That's just, that's what we see here in the Purge. Did you? By the way, did you catch that Senator Rohn was a third-party candidate?
So I didn't catch that, but I did notice there was a third person on the stage. I thought that was the third-party candidate. The way this was going, they only concentrated on 2 people.
In one of the first reports about her in the very beginning, they said, third-party candidates really gaining steam, like something along those lines. So I thought that was interesting. She's like a Green Party candidate or something like that, or the People's Movement candidate maybe in the future. Someone who's not just part of this 2-party system, and she actually makes it to the election, right? She's running against the president here to possibly be the new president.
Do they call them the minister or the president?
I don't know. I think they use both, actually.
Yeah, they go back and forth. They use the new founding fathers a lot. Which actually, speaking of which, there's this saying that they have every time they're about to purge, which is "Blessed be the new founding fathers," and "Blessed be America who lets us purge," or something along those lines.
Yeah, some cold stuff.
Yeah, some cold stuff. The one thing I want to focus on, though, is that it's always the founding fathers before America, which I mentioned in our housekeeping this week. Like, people love the leader more than they love the country. Like, people, they don't love America; they love Trump. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's true.
They might just burn America down if Trump loses, which, we'll discuss that a little later on in this episode.
If we're alive.
But yeah, the another thing that I wanted to note was, even with our own masks, when we're trying to, keep others safe from COVID, that has become its own market. which, there are some pretty cool masks, but, like, that was the first thing was, like, how can we monetize and stylize these masks?
Oh, yeah.
So
immediately you saw everything from horror movie recreations of Jason Voorhees mask to superhero ones, you name it.
Yep, sports teams and stuff. So originally, for some reason, I thought that instead of Sergeant, his name was Lieutenant. Because in Anarchy, they don't call Leo by, like, on the subtitles.
Yeah.
He's just in it as Sergeant.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't call him by his name. Even if you go to the IMDb page, he's credited as Sergeant. They probably weren't planning on bringing him back. I mean, it's a good move they did. I think he's a very strong character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so I thought, I was like, Lieutenant? And I'm like, is he Lieutenant Leo? And then I was like, no, he was Sergeant Leo.
Sergeant Leo.
Yeah, and of course, there's also this moment where Party in the USA is being played by these girls who earlier on, these girls had tried to shoplift from a local shop. Was it a deli or a convenience store? A little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's like a convenience store.
Yeah. No, yeah. Actually, I think because he was talking about Marcos cutting onions or something. So it might have been a deli, but it's a small black-owned business, and Joe Dixon is the guy who owns it. He has this dude named Marcos working for him, who is he's an immigrant from Juarez, Mexico, and he has a couple of people who frequent the store. One of them is Lainey, who now she goes out during Purge nights as a medic, but she used to be known as El Muerte Pequeño. La Muerte Pequeña. Yeah, she used to be known as La Muerte Pequeña, which meant the little death.
Yeah.
Which is also what some cultures call an orgasm. In French, it's Le Petit Mort. I'm very, and I definitely didn't pronounce that as well as I pronounced the Spanish version. But Le Petit Mort. But yeah, so she was actually legendary for killing people. So she actually helps to stop these girls from shoplifting. These are both young black girls too.
Yeah.
And they tell her, they're like, "Oh, Lainey, you used to be our hero. You look pretty whitish now," despite the fact that they're the ones dressed in like Catholic schoolgirl uniforms and stuff. Yeah, and
its business has obviously been around. It's a mainstay of the neighborhood. Joe, the owner, mentions that Lainey tried to rob from him back in the day, when she was a kid. So, he's been in this neighborhood a long time. And he does care about it. We slowly learn, he cares about the people here and helping each other out. And, he gave Marcos a chance and obviously won over Lainey's trust and friendship. It's a good group. It's a good group that they introduce us to here.
Yeah, it is nice to see the narrative shift from a very white group in the first one, in which the only character of color was the homeless man they let into the house.
Right. Yep.
Really quick, I want to just bring this to, because I came to this conclusion that Ethan Hawke's family in The Purge is actually just like a liberal Democrat family.
Oh, for sure. Sure.
Because they're very much like, we don't purge personally, but it's every American's right to purge. And it's like, you may not participate in certain practices, but you'll still support those practices and vote for them despite how many people they kill. And they finally find out like the type of people who were affected by this. And it takes a long time for Ethan Hawke to be guilted into doing the right thing in this movie. He's just trying to keep his family safe. But his kid lets in, I don't want to say a fugitive. His kid lets in somebody who's running away from these one percenters who are trying to kill him. And he's a black man. He's homeless. He has dog tags on, so you could tell he's a veteran. And Ethan Hawke at one point in the movie tells him, "You're going to die anyway. You can die like a coward or die like a man." Like, that's it. And he's not saying, like, he's going to kill him. Like, in order to save his own family, Ethan Hawke has to give up this dude to the one percenters outside.
Yeah.
Who specifically mentioned, like, listen, we're the haves. I could tell by the flowers out front that you support the Purge. Very similar to keeping an American flag out front in order to show that you're patriotic. We see that you support the Purge. We can tell by your house that you're good people. You're educated people. Like, there, even from there, there's a huge class distinction that has to be made. But it is a white family deciding the fate of a black man.
Yep.
Which does get turned on its head at the end. And I think it's very purposeful. Like, these films aren't trying to be white savior films.
No, they're definitely not.
Yeah, and I think it's very much about, like, you can try to be, but we're still going to have our own opinions as people of color, and we're still going to fight the way we need to fight. And the second movie, it's all about Frank Grillo's character, Lieutenant Leo. No, I'm kidding, Sergeant. And he ends up meeting a Latina woman and her daughter. And then the third movie is actually mostly people of color. And I think the fourth one, the first Purge, is pretty much all people of color. Like the people, like the few white people who are in the film are just the ones running things.
Yeah. Well, like even like Barnes, like I think he's a really likable character. He's a really interesting character. He's definitely badass, where you get a lot of great action scenes from him. But like, part of his arc.
Barnes is Sergeant?
Sergeant Leo Barnes, yeah, that's his name.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just started with Sergeant. I'm just accepting him as Leo. Barnes is a whole new thing. So sorry, what were you saying about him?
Yeah, he's a great character, but his arc is kind of, he gets redeemed and saved by these other people, by people of color, right? Like he finds a different purpose.
Yes, he does.
He winds up choosing to help them and save them and use his skills and his privilege in a way to kind of help them survive. Which in turn, makes him a better person.
Yeah, that's what being an ally is all about, really.
Yep, exactly.
Using what skills and what privilege you do have, to help those who may not have those things.
Yes, and in election year, he's obviously keeping the Senator Roan alive. He's got a great skill set. He's really doing everything he can, but he can't do it alone. And we see that throughout the film, that he has to rely on these people, these other characters to help him, keep her alive, to make a difference. And, and that starts from, Joe, the owner of the deli, who gets involved later, to Dante Bishop, who I know we just started kind of mentioning now, if you want to talk a little bit more about him and where his role is in this film.
Yeah, so Dante Bishop actually does have a name. He's the he's the guy who Ethan Hawke's family saves in the first movie. And by the way, that ends with him in turn saving them. So that's two movies back to back. It's very much the idea of like, live and let live.
Yep.
Which I do like, and more so not just live and let live, because he does kill some people in order to save Ethan Hawke's family, but it's more so just this idea of we have to take care of each other, which, as comrades, we know that does go back to communism.
Yep.
It's about community and communism. That's literally where the words come from. So it is about taking care of each other, and we see that in multiple films. And in Anarchy, at the very end, the resistance comes in, and Kenneth Michael Williams, who we talked about in the Lovecraft Country episodes. Yeah, he's here leading the resistance. I would have loved to have seen him in election year.
Yeah, that would have been great.
But yeah, so he's here leading the resistance, and who's with him? Dante Bishop, the guy who was saved in the first film. And Dante Bishop plays a much larger role in this film as well, because it seems like he kind of is the de facto leader of the resistance now, right?
Yeah, he's John Connor now. He's leading them. He's quoted on the news and everything, right? He's the one talking about how the founding fathers are using the purge to kill people, that are struggling. He talks about no welfare, less housing, less all that stuff. They're using it to build the economy. He is an outspoken fighter of the purge and of the government, both from a political standpoint and from guns and boots on the ground. He is physically fighting it every year.
Yeah, and also they are housing people, like they have food and medical supplies. For this is actually, it's very like Black Panther like, right? Because the Black Panthers, some people say like, oh, they were just a terrorist organization that was around to kill cops and blah, blah, blah. No, they were about community as well. They had breakfast programs for impoverished children to be able to eat before they went to school and stuff. Like,
yep.
That's what it was about, and that's what this resistance is doing as well. I want to take a bit to talk about what people are wearing during the purge. We did mention masks earlier. We floated by the shoplifting girls who come back later on to attack the convenience store.
Does Ethan Hawke's family live?
So Ethan Hawke dies, but his family does live.
Oh, okay, I remembered him dying, and then when you said Bishop saved him, I was like, really? I was like, man, I really thought he died in that film.
Yeah, so I mean, he kind of does. Like after the guy stabs Ethan Hawke, Bishop shoots him in the head, but it's a little late by that point.
Yeah,
but he is there to like when Lena Headey and the rest of her family, Cersei's in it, nice. When they're like about to be slaughtered by their neighbors, of all people, Bishop comes in and saves her, and in doing so only kills one person, which I really liked, because he could have shot all of them. He has military training, it was there, but let's go back to that Yellowstone quote I said a few episodes ago, right? I've killed more men than anyone I know, but I've never murdered one. And that's very much it. Like, at the end of that movie, Bishop is very much about, like, I'm not killing unless I have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he, he's able to save their family. He moves on to the third movie. The things people wear, we talked about how extravagant they get, the princess girls who were the shoplifters and everything. They're playing Party in the USA, which is, glorification of a country that actually isn't so glorious,
Yeah.
And also we have the murder tourists, who I want to talk about for a quick sec. We're bouncing around plot-wise a little bit, but the murder tourists are coming from Russia and all these other countries to partake in the Purge, which I personally don't think they should be allowed to, because they're not American citizens.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird, but but once again, the Purge helps the economy, so they're all about making money wherever they can. But these people, it's interesting that you have Russian voices behind American faces, which in 2016, very applicable. They dress up as like Lady Liberty, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and they're going out to commit terrible acts too. But I really like that, because it's as if the outsiders see America for what it really is. George Washington is a murderer. George Washington was a slave owner. Abraham Lincoln, so once again, take a drink. People's History of the United States. He was not the hero that people claim he was, where like, oh, he freed the slaves and all this other stuff. He wanted to send those slaves back to Africa, because while he might not have agreed with like literal slavery, he never saw whites and blacks as equal. And he said as much. He was in Louisiana on the campaign trail talking about how like he wouldn't outright come out against slavery.
Yeah, it's just a fact, right? Like,
yeah. It is. It's literal history. So, and of course you have Lady Liberty, the one, that was a pretty cool mask with the light up and everything. And, when the mask that she had, I'm not sure, I think it was an actual woman wearing it. When the mask she had lit up, they had X's over the eyes. And I really like that idea of like, liberty is dead.
Yeah.
I had it out with someone on Twitter a little while, as I do. And one of them was like, oh, like, free country, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what are you free to do? What are you free to do? Ooh. You're free to vote for whoever they tell you to vote for. Okay? You're not, you're like, obviously certain laws are put in place for a reason. Like, you're not free to kill anyone whenever you want. Fine. I don't want to do that. But like you're not free to build a certain thing on your house unless you get the right clearance for it. You're not free to own your own land unless you have enough money to buy it and stuff. Like, land is literally public. There's no reason why land should be doled out by the government. Okay? And obviously it's not even our land, it's native land, especially on Long Island, where every other town is named after a native tribe that was fucking either slaughtered or swindled out of their land.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But and that, what? I want to take a break real quick from my digression of a digression to talk about how whether or not I would go out to do the Purge depends on a couple things. Do I have money and resources? If I do, I'm totally getting some body armor, taking a couple guns with me for protection. I'm going to Best Buy. I'm fucking looting the shit out of it. And I'd imagine the other people who are looting Best Buy instead of killing people, they might be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So we can hang out with that,
But like, you probably can't, because Best Buy can afford
Best Buy can afford that protection. That's a good point.
Exactly. Like, the places
you'd have to have
you
one
would
of those
loot.
special saws like they have in. Oh, that'll be a perfect way to bring it back. You'd have to have one of those special saws or something to pull the shields off the doors.
Yep. So who gets hurt? Small businesses, right? The community gets hurt again, because if you can't go to Best Buy and you can't go to Target, you're gonna go to Joe's TV Land down the street, and you're gonna break in there and you're gonna steal his stuff, and he can't afford it. He can't afford the Purge protection because they raised the rates, right? They do that to Joe, the owner of the deli.
Joe Dixon.
In this film, he gets a call the night before the Purge, the day before the Purge.
The night before the fucking Purge.
Yeah, they tell him they've raised his rates. He owes thousands of dollars to keep his insurance. He can't pay that. He has a small business. He doesn't have that kind of money, and he loses his Purge insurance. So now he has to put his own life on the line, stay at the shop, and protect it, because he's going to lose everything otherwise. It's, and that's what you see, and that it sucks. It really, really sucks.
And there is a lot of interesting discourse throughout the movie from beginning to end, where Dixon, Joe, the owner of the deli, Joe Dixon, he's very like. He's very contrarian. Like, they're talking about, I believe that Roan can really make a difference, and he's like, I don't believe they can make a difference. Like, he says later on to Roan's face, I lost my faith in the system a long time ago, but he still believes in the American dream, which is so interesting. He helps out Lainey, who was a shoplifter, helps get her out of the life. I believe I think they imply that she used to be a gang member too.
Yeah.
They help Marco. He helps Marcos find a job after he moved from Mexico, and
he wants to make him a partner, right? He wants
to make him a partner and possibly owner one day. He says live the American dream, and it really is beautiful, but it's also sad.
Yeah, he wants to purify it. He wants to get it back to what people are told is the American dream. Not the reality of it. What it should be in its purest form, and that's giving immigrants a chance, people of all backgrounds, the opportunity to live the life they want, to own something, which you very rarely see that anymore in real life, and obviously in this world as well.
Yeah. What pisses me off about the whole they're coming into our country and all this other shit. Like, most likely they're coming at the border. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason those states are on the border is because they were Mexico already, you fucks.
Yeah, we took their home, and now they're coming back to it, and we're like, you can't come here. It's not your home. But it is my home. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, and obviously there are immigrants who come from other countries that aren't Mexico, and they might be South American countries or Caribbean islands and stuff like that. But just when you think of the Mexicans are the ones everyone's afraid of, right?
Yep.
Mexicans are going to come over here, and I don't know what they think they're going to do, but the point is that Mexico, not too long before they went to war with the United States, it's called the Mexican-American War, but America is 2 continents, so
yeah.
I don't like to call it that. Before they went to war with the United States, they had just fought off Spain to gain their fucking independence.
They were natives, right? Like, this is their home.
Yes. They were natives that Spain fucking colonized and fucking raped until, they became Mexican. No, but eventually the natives and the Spanish became, Mexicans in Mexico.
Yep. Exactly.
So Marcos talks about when he was in Mexico, and he says every day in Juarez was like the Purge, man. So he's there with Joe protecting his business, and
he knows how to use a gun, right? He comes off like this sweet kid, but he can defend himself. He can fight, and
he's
willing to.
He's a damn good shot too.
He's a damn good shot.
He's a good shot. Yeah. He shoots off the ear of one of the princesses. I think her name is Kimmy, one of the shoplifting girls, and then they're like, "Oh, we'll come back later." Blah blah blah. Real quick thing to notice, they had their cars covered in Christmas lights.
Yeah, I did notice that. It was pretty.
You can only get away with that kind of traffic violation during the Purge.
Yes.
Honestly, that's the real thing too. Is I would commit a shitload of white collar crime. I would so much fucking insider trading, a lot of stealing, theft, and stuff like that. From the people who deserve it, but but that's another interesting thing too, is in this and in real life, they always talk about how crime is down or how some towns have more crime. Here we talk about how Brentwood has so much crime and Central Islip has so much crime and Huntington Station has so much crime, but they're not talking about how, where we fucking came from in Northport, there were how many overdoses, how much drug stuff going on. You're only talking about when brown people kill other brown people or white people. That's the only type of crime you care about.
Yeah, they don't want to focus on white crime because that goes against the narrative, right?
Yeah, it really does. So Marcos and Joe, they end up having to put themselves in a situation where they're going to help a couple of characters we met earlier. These characters, Sergeant Leonardo Barnes and Senator Charles Roan.
Charlie Roan.
Charlie Roan. They're both, holed up, being all protected in the house and everything, but it turns out the security detail, they got people on the inside. Yep. So the real security detail gets fucking sniped out by a bunch of white supremacist militia dudes. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. The new founding fathers were not going to let her even get to election day because they couldn't take the chance that she would legitimately win. They have to take her out on this night.
Yeah, and we did mention earlier how government level 10 government people are now open game, right? I did mention that, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you did. I actually don't remember, but they are.
All right,
They
just
changed the rules this time.
Yeah.
Because just like when Bernie Sanders constantly got fucked by the DNC, right? Where they would close polling stations, or they just constantly
make a
would
weird
change
fucking
things.
app, not do any media coverage of how well Bernie was doing, despite how well Bernie was doing.
It's just here they're gonna make sure that she's dead. They're not gonna let her have a shot.
Yeah, she's not going to live to Election Day. That's their plan. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I was actually very scared when I saw these guys.
Yeah, they're pretty terrifying.
Yeah, it's not like they just sent in soldiers or something. Like, these dudes are like dressed to the nines in tactical gear, but you see Confederate flag patches and swastika patches and Iron Cross patches all over them. The one guy who's their leader, he takes off his helmet and mask for some fucking reason. And when he does, you see that he has like more tattoos, more white supremacist tattoos on his head. And one of them is an American flag, which I thought was interesting because he had an American flag tattoo on his head, but chose to brandish the Confederate flag tattoos overall. Like, that was the first thing you see when you meet him. Which, once again, I feel like America is just a byproduct of the stuff. Like, if you love racism and you love America, like, that's great, but you love racism first. Let's be real. Like, you just love the fact that America is racist, and then when America tries to be less racist once in a while, you start getting mad. Oh, this country isn't what it used to be, blah, blah, blah. Like, we fucking see you. And you know what? I think that's an important time to know that the mask is off. Like, when we talk about mask-off moments where people aren't hiding who they are anymore, it happens in the first one. The only guy to take off his mask is the leader of the group. He's called Polite Leader, thanks to the subtitles. We see that this guy takes his mask off as well, this white supremacist militia member, which, let's go into real life, how the president told the Proud Boys to stand down and stand by, and how, white supremacists have not been classified as the hate groups and the terrorists that they are. And I think there's a very specific reason for that.
Oh, yeah? What's that reason?
This is a country thank you for asking. This is a country that's built on white supremacy through and through.
Whoa. Are you sure about that?
Listen, I have to gather my sources. Just kidding. No, I fucking don't. The sources are everywhere. But I have it on good reason to believe that a bunch of white people who came here believing their religion was the best religion, and then found people, and then use that religion to oppress those people, kill those people, rape those people, enslave those people. And then when some of those people didn't want to be slaves, went to another country to get black slaves and brought them over. Went to another continent to get black slaves and then brought them over. This might be a country built on white supremacy, and it's always been there. And I think the reason why white supremacists haven't been denounced the way they should be is because they're a good fucking backup.
Yeah.
That in the event that things don't go a certain way, they don't have to follow the laws that the police and even the military do. And those are thin laws, but they don't have to follow them.
I mean, look at what Kyle Rittenhouse, right? That right there, or Trump saying to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Like, if he doesn't get elected, he can call on them to raise fucking anarchy, to mess shit up, so that he can get what he wants without having to sully his hands. And they're foolish enough to be used and abused by people that don't care about them either. They're still victims in a way. Obviously they're not good people. They're doing bad things, but they're letting themselves get used by people in power, and we just see this time and time again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know a specific person who got into an accident, drunk driving, had the option to serve in the military or go to prison. He chose the Air Force, came out, and if he wasn't conservative to begin with, he definitely was after he got out of the Air Force. But even then, he fell down a terrible hole of rabbit hole of depression and drug use and PTSD, and one of his friends who was still serving fucking died, and that was a terrible hit to him. And then one of his friends who he was doing all the drugs and stuff with also died, and that was terrible. And like it's been a long road to recovery for him to like go through he was also arrested, by the way. He was arrested for being involved in a fucking drug ring.
Wow.
Very similar to Breonna Taylor's, actually not similar to Breonna Taylor's situation at all, but just in that she was like barely connected, just knew a guy and got fucking lit up. This guy was part of the operation that I knew and made it out fine. Like they arrested him and everything. They went to a VA court because he was a veteran. He got I don't want to say he got special treatment. A lot of people were worried. He spent time in Riverhead. It was rough for him and his family. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But, even after going through all of that, getting clean, recovering, getting his house back in order and everything, getting his finances back in order and stuff, and doing the right thing, fucking helping people get rid of all the tree debris on their lawns after the big storms we've had on Long Island, still is a huge Trump supporter.
Unbelievable.
Hates Antifa, hates Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. So, but the thing is, your life didn't have to be that way, and there's so many others who are in a similar position who are no matter who you are, no matter what kind of left-leaning or right-leaning, no matter where you stand economically, your life can always be better. There's something you want to make your life better. And I guarantee you, it's not the poor and black and brown people who are standing in your way of that. You are with us. You aren't part of that 1%. You're part of us. And they're keeping us warring with each other because that's how they win. That's how they keep lining their pockets with money while we fucking die on the streets here, while we fucking die of COVID, while we're not getting any money to help make ends meet during an economic pandemic and disaster. Okay, you and I are closer than we will ever be to those people in power.
Exactly. And that's what they want, right? They want us to be at war with each other. And that's how they will always stay in power. Because
historically, that's how it's always been.
Yeah, because the day that we do come together, that we finally realize that we don't have so many differences, we have much more in common. That if we unite, we outnumber them by so much that we can take back what belongs to us. We pay taxes, right? But how much of that tax money really goes back into the communities, into the people, or for the people? It really doesn't, and it should, and we have a right to take that back.
Yeah,
but,
it's going to fucking law enforcement.
Yes.
So they can kill us. It's going to the military so they can go kill brown people and be killed for no reason. It's for oil. Back in the day, it was land.
Yeah.
And then when we got all the land of the United States, it was oil.
Yep.
So but yeah, so we had this case where Rowan and Leonardo are trying to escape the house. It's awesome to see him kill Nazis. I love watching Nazis get killed. It's my favorite thing.
It is pretty cool. They do some really cool action scenes in this. He's got all this hidden trap door, and he's planned for everything.
He has the Inferno virus that you put in that short script you
know.
wrote in high school, bro.
I was thinking about that. He literally uses that shit. Yeah, when I was in high school, I wrote a short film about a hacker who uses this virus to create an explosion from the computer, and Barnes does it.
Yeah, he does. He really does. So they escape and they end up, basically it's a whole they're trying to run and they end up getting accosted by these murder tourists who, real quick. Murder tourism may not be it is a thing. If you go to other countries and continents, you could trophy hunt. So murder tourism is definitely a thing, but also sexual tourism is a thing.
Yes.
I think I made a note to put sources in there, but sexual tourism is a thing. Brazil and a lot of Caribbean and South American countries, you have people that go there specifically to have sex with beautiful women or underage girls. Epstein level shit. So I think the World Cup in might have been 2014, might have been whichever one they had in Brazil, was actually huge, for people coming in, having sex with underage girls and paying them ridiculously low amounts of money to do it. It's terrible. So just note that people will travel all over the world to do terrible things if you're not able to do those terrible things in your country. Somehow Russia's more humane, because this guy comes here to do the purge. They're dressed up in their patriotic costumes and they accost Roan and Barnes, and this is where all of our pro tags kind of meet up until like the last act of the film, in which, you know, Marcos and Joe Dixon, they decide to, you know, they slaughter these dudes and they save Ronan Barnes. Interesting thing to note is that the entire time Barnes is interrogating everybody, and I know why he's doing it, but it's not coming across the way he means it. What exactly is he doing?
Well, his whole thing is he trusts no one. You know, once they're betrayed at the safe house, he tells Roan, you know, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anybody but myself at this point. You know, so everyone he meets, he's going to interrogate no matter what they do, because he doesn't know who's working for the new founding fathers, right? Like, you know,
it just so happens that everyone he interrogates is brown or black.
Yeah, because the rest of the cast is, right? The only two white
Yeah.
main characters are Roan and Barnes, you know, which is cool. You know, it's great that they have diversity.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's totally like getting on the wrong side. And him and Joe just do not see eye to eye right away. You know,
and now knowing that he's a former cop is making it even worse.
Oh,
honestly.
God, I know.
You know, and I love how Joe calls him out on that too. He's like, "I saved your ass. You're still interrogating me? Like, are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
And Joe is the only one to really bring up race in the movie, I think. Like, you know, he's like it's in the backdrop of the film, but he's the only one to be like, "Oh, like, you know, you should be thanking my black ass. I saved you." And like, you know, he does bring it up a lot.
He does.
You know, he brings it up later. Yeah.
Like he says later on, he's like, you know, I like black people, but you can't kill. I'm not gonna let you kill these white people. There are white people.
These are my white.
You know,
that was. So
he also
good.
has a really problematic line that I had to write down because I was shocked that he said this.
Do you want to spoil it, or do you want to get to it? When
we
get
do you know
to
what
it?
I'm going to talk? Okay, good. I don't know.
I know exactly what you're going to. I wrote it down too. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So like, what's cool here too is that like Marcos has such a respect for Roan, right? Like he really believes in her. He's like you and I when Bernie was running. Like he thinks that real change can come, and you know he's been supporting her, and now he has a chance to literally help her. So of course he's going to act on that, and he's so
if
happy
I had a
to be able
chance
to
fucking save Bernie Sanders' life, I would probably do it. Depending on the circumstances, but and I like how he tells her. He says Florida's the key. You know, Florida's what you gotta win. You gotta win those votes, and like, you know, that's very true. Like, you know, Florida was a big decider in the Trump win in the 2016 election, and also it was a big deciding factor in the Bush election in 2000.
Absolutely, yeah, good score.
Yeah, so you know, so Florida definitely is the key. You know, he says we need to get the older people, and I thought that was an interesting take. They don't really go into how she does that in the end necessarily, but you know, but it just once again, you know, a few months before our actual 2016 election, like, you gotta win Florida. You know, this is where Dixon drops his line, "I lost my faith in the system a long time ago." Oh, and then we go, so how did they end up getting into the van? Oh, so the
girls come back, right? The girls,
shoplifters.
Yeah, they come back with like this crazy saw that's going to cut through the gates of the shop. I don't know why they don't go to the roof to defend the building again, which I thought was kind of weird. But
I guess they just don't want the shop to get ruined.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
But they decide they're going to like split up to either side of it and like fight it off while they wait for them to break through. And like Roan decides that she wants to be involved in it. She's like, "Give me a gun." You know, and Barnes is like, "I'll give you a gun, but you're not up front with me." And she's like, I have to do this. I'm one of you now. Like, we're fighting for our lives. You have to give me a chance to defend myself. And, you know, Barnes, all that matters to him is getting her through this night alive, right? Like, that's all he has right now. He needs to get her through this alive, and he doesn't want to risk her, but, you know, keep coming to a point where he can't keep her safe. He has to rely on other people, and now he has to rely on her too. But, you know, Joe's like, I have a friend that I trust, you know, and of course Barnes is still grilling him about it. You know, he's like, you know, you really trust her and blah, 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 you know, and he's just giving him a hard time. But Joe convinces him. So he calls Lainey, right? Lainey's her name?
Yes, yeah, he calls Lainey, who's in her medic van, and he says, well, he doesn't say it exactly, but he goes, "We need the Pequeña Muerte back in action. Like, that's what we need." I switched up the words the first time, so I made sure to look it up.
That boy's got the devil in him.
Yeah, and she comes through, and it was fucking amazing. Like, It sucks because these were teenage girls she was killing.
That's true. But they are killers, because they even mentioned how they murdered their own parents before.
They murdered their own parents?
Like, I just killed my fucking mom and dad, right? Like, they're like really over the top, like screaming and cursing. But yeah, she shows up and just kicks some ass.
And I just want to talk about their brutality and the brutality of a lot of other characters in these films throughout the whole franchise. You'll find it in the show notes and sources. There's a really good article in Psychology Today where a psychology professor is talking about how this idea that like venting out your rage helps you to feel cleansed and helps you to feel more calm, but it's actually not the case. Even back in the days when eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth was a thing, it was like, if you steal my goats, I'm going to kill your entire livestock. If you take my wife, I'll kill your kid, or something like that. Like, it was always about escalation, and we do see that in these movies that, like, excuse me, that, like, it might be, okay, well, this year on Purge Night, it was legal for you to kill this person, but next year on Purge Night, I'm coming to get you, and I'm going to do worse. Like, that's not how it works. Anger is an emotion we have, and there are, like every emotion that we have, there are healthy ways in which we can work through it and come out better on the other side. Purging is not necessarily one of those ways. As somebody who, studied martial arts for as long as I did, I do realize that physical activity can help your mind become more clear when your body's not feeling all those chemicals and adrenaline and everything rushing through it, making you do stupid shit. But also, there are times when I kind of got lost in it, when I was like fighting and like winning, and I would just like, there are times that, I came close to brutalizing people, and, it's kind of just a testament to that. Like, being angry and hurting people is not the way to get through those emotions. And a big reason for that too is because you're not usually angry about just one thing. If I'm having a shitty time at my job and I kill someone on Purge Night, that's not going to change my job.
No, it's not. And I also feel like, once you start that, you realize that it's not filling that hole you have. And sometimes you keep doing it because you're hoping it will, So, like, maybe it started out as getting revenge on Purge Night on someone that you didn't like. And then all of a sudden you're killing more and more people because you're trying to make sense of your life. You're trying to find something to fill that void. And obviously it can't, right? Like you said, it can't make your job better. It can't make, most likely can't make your economic, situation better. But you keep doing it anyway because you don't know what else to do. And I think that's probably where a lot of people act on this night. And some people are just crazy, right? or like evil or whatever it might be, and they can't control themselves, or they really do enjoy hurting people. There's bad people in the world, right? And this is a chance for them to go out and act on their instincts without repercussions. So you got a whole mix of people out in this night.
Yeah, in the first Purge, they make a really good point of noting that there are like so many different people who are participating for different reasons. Some people are participating just for the money they'll get. Like, they'll get $5,000 just for staying on the island and being alive. But they'll also get more money if they actually participate in the Purge and kill people.
Yeah.
So there are people who are doing it primarily for economic reasons, but there is one character who is unstable and homicidal and psychotic. And he comes back later on, and the movie actually starts with him being interviewed. He's like, I need to let my rage out, blah, and he's like got different like designs cut into his head and stuff. Like he really is that that maniacal person that you don't want to see. Honestly, anytime, but especially during the Purge. But once again, I'd like to state that individuals with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violence than they are to be the aggressors. Victims of abuse than they are to be abusers. Just want to put that out there. And maybe we'll cover Joker at some point and talk about that fucking movie. That's all I got through Batman vs. Superman. I talked about it on the podcast and took whatever little nuggets I could out of it. Gonna have to do the same thing with Joker.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so Lainey ends up saving them. There's no way they can hold up in the store anymore. She takes them in her medic van. They and she's got this guy Rondo who's handcuffed to the bed in the van because she took care of him and then said, like, you're not going out purging. You're a good kid. Blah blah blah. He wants to go out and retaliate for one of his friends who was killed. And what actually shoots through their van? It's a chain gun, but from where?
From a helicopter, right?
It is from the Nazi helicopter, or
yeah, it's from the Nazi helicopter.
Okay. I made sure to note, even though Rondo was in there for like 5 minutes, I was like, they got Rondo, no, they got Rondo, those motherfuckers.
They're like, he's a good kid. He's just out purging because he's a good kid.
And they do make it a point in Anarchy and the first Purge to note how there are third parties that are always put into these purge situations to control the death and to control the killing. And you know, like when like the purge, think of it this way. The same way that stop and frisk and the war on drugs have been used to marginalize and destroy the black community, the purge has been made to do the exact same thing in this universe, and they make sure it's tipped to their favor all the time. So if, you know, you're going to have like 100 black people in a neighborhood be killed, they'll make sure that they send in their own soldiers, the NFFA, or their own vigilantes to go take care of that and kill even more people. You know,
Right.
And they do mention it in multiple movies. Real quick, in the first Purge, they actually did have literal Klan members on Staten Island, like they were in Klan robes and everything.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and they were going to like, the black churches and killing them and stuff, and not too different from Dylan Roof. Unfortunately, I was going in and out of sleep while I was watching the first Purge, so I wasn't able to see the Klan members get killed, but I'm definitely going to rewatch it because once again, guys, when Nazis and white supremacists die, it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Okay?
It sure is.
It is. So please tell me about Joe Dixon's little comment when the medical van pulls up in what looks like, a terrible neighborhood. You have all these.
Well, it's like a fight club, right? Like they're all like having this like arena
That's right,
fight.
I forgot they were having a fucking fight club.
It was an arena fight with weapons and stuff, but like they were cheering and stuff, and they're hiding because I think it's like underground or in a tunnel or something, so the helicopter can't get to them. And Joe Dixon says, "There's a whole bunch of Negroes heading this way, and we're sitting here like a bucket of chicken." That's an actual line from the film. I was like, I had to like pause it for a second. I was like, did he just say that? I was like, wow, okay.
Well, I said, LOL. Why does Joe Dixon got to be racist about all the guys coming to the van?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that when they do come to the van, Joe lets out this whistle, or he lets out the whistle first, right?
Yeah, he does. Yep.
He lets out this whistle, and the whistle is returned. Not too different from the Mockingjay whistle from Hunger Games, but incredibly different because it's actually noticed and used by Crips.
Yep.
Turns out Joe used to be a Crip, and he himself got out of the life. When they open the van, we see that these guys, and these are like big, muscled up, fucking tattooed, black guys with guns. Like they're made to look very menacing.
Yep.
Or how Hillary Clinton sees any black person.
Oh.
And then it turns out they have one of their own dudes, and they're like, please, you got to help him.
Yeah, he's like, help our boy. And he's like, and then, Leo Barnes is like, you got to do something for us. Because that's just how he is.
At least, see, now it's funny how even here he knew not to be like, so who are you with? Like, his fucking mouth.
You trust these guys, Joe?
You trust me? Boom, boom, boom. He gets shot in the fucking head. The Lily White Devil motherfucker. Leonardo ass name have. Jesus Christ.
I know. It turns out because Leo had been shot right earlier in the film that they've been tracking him through the bullet, which they have some advanced tech. These white supremacists.
They're being funded by the NFFA.
They are. So they've been tracking him. So he removes the bullet, and I believe he has them place the bullet somewhere else, right, so that it'll lure them in. And this group of Crips can actually kill the white supremacists, which they do, and it was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I loved that. Now take me to the resistance. I don't remember exactly how they got to the resistance.
Yeah, well, it turns out that this medical van, I think, is funded by that resistance. So like Lainey knows them, she knows them personally. So that's kind of like their headquarters. So she she's like, I have to bring you here. There's nowhere else to go. So she brings Roan and Barnes there. And we get introduced to Dante Bishop again, and he's preparing for, some sort of strike. We don't really know much about it. He's getting a bunch of people to go out. But we see here, like I think you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people. There's kids, there's homeless people, there's people that would be in danger, and they're being sheltered here. They're given food and safety. There's armed soldiers protecting them. They're
the real victims of the Purge.
Yeah, and Dante's people are here to make sure they survive the night. It's a really good thing they're doing. They really are trying to be heroes here. Dante leaves. He has his mission for the night. He goes out to do that. And Barnes, just being the suspicious man he is, starts investigating a little bit, and he uncovers this plot that they're actually going to go and assassinate the new founding fathers. And I thought this was really interesting because Roan is so against it, right? She's like, they cannot do this. I need to win the election fair and square. If they die, they'll become martyrs for this movement, and I will never truly be able to win and end the purge. And she is so adamant about this. But the people of this group of the anti-new founding fathers, they want her to win, right? They believe in her too. They say that, like, we believe in your message. We want you to end the purge.
That's why we're going to help.
Yeah, like we're making sure this happens. They're trying to kill you, so we're going to kill them first and ensure that you win on election day. But she just does not want this to happen.
To an extent, I agree with them.
I do too. I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, because that's the infighting that we're having on the left right now. The infighting between liberals and Democrats and leftists, progressive, communists, socialists, anarchists, whatever you want to call them. That's all the infighting we're having now. And the big thing is, do we play by their rules and vote for Joe Biden, or do we not? Now, in this movie in particular, they're able to control so many things. I don't think there's any way a fair election could happen. I don't think, people say trust in democracy, but our democracy has been rigged from the get-go. By just allowing rich people to run for office in the first place, the democracy was rigged. Okay, by by serving out platitudes and minor little itty bitty crumbs of freedom whenever there's enough violence or uprising, they'll give just enough. But overall, this is where democracy has gotten us, right? In real life, 2020, we're in October right now. We're less than a month away from the presidential election, and we're being told that if we don't vote for one person, we're literally going to die. How the fuck are you going to trust democracy when that's the options it gives you?
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a pipe dream that she has, that she, they're trying to murder her, and she's like, I can win with voting again. It's just like,
beat them at the polls.
Even if you do win, who's to say they won't still try to stop you? They still hold the power currently. So I get why Bishop's people feel this is the only way to ensure that she truly wins. So I think she's naive here. I really do. I think she's very naive, but I understand why.
And not too different from, Bernie's naive in his own way too, right?
Yeah, he endorsed Biden, right?
Exactly.
He bent the knee, so to speak. What does Biden do? He goes on to debate and say how he beat him, how he defeated the socialists.
Bernie is the Jon Snow to Biden's Daenerys Targaryen.
Yes, yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, that's actually really, really accurate.
Yeah. Except Daenerys was the one who got raped and not the one doing the raping.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying in real life we have to assassinate our political opponents, although our president did call for that and alluded to it in 2016. But in this world where there's 12 hours where killing is legal, there's no way people wouldn't use it for political or financial gain. Okay, and it might be, because like they commit plenty of white collar crimes throughout the other 364 days of the year. There is that way to look at it. But in the Purge world, I don't believe that democracy could save them. In our world, a lot of shit has to change about our quote unquote democracy. We're still not standing on equal ground until every person who is born in this country or comes to this country is standing on the exact same ground. And even then, honestly, that's equality, that's not equity. Because, right now, I mentioned in the Lovecraft Country episode, right? Everybody does most people technically have the same opportunities. But because of the past, there's still people who might have those opportunities and then a lot more. So, like people tell me, they're like, oh, don't you want Trump out of office, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? If Trump wins this election, I feel like this will radicalize to the point that he doesn't last 4 years in office, one way or another.
Yeah, I agree.
That it doesn't fucking happen. And you and I spoke. We spoke in multiple episodes about like find your place in the resistance, find your way to resist. Become a fucking hacker.
There you go.
That's a big one. And even then, you're still going to be put in front of a kangaroo court in the UK, like Julian Assange is. So there's clearly a difference in ideologies. Roan ends up getting kidnapped and taken to the mass where the new founding fathers are in a church, and they are going to be there, ready to kill people. But the person they really want to kill is Charlie Roan, Senator Charlie Roan, presidential candidate. And then I love that line that Leo has where he meets up with Dante Bishop later on, and he says, "This isn't an assassination anymore. This is a rescue op." And they go into the church through these old tunnels that were there. And one of the guys in the Resistance says, and I don't know if that's their actual name, but that's what they fucking are. He says that the old founding fathers are going to screw over the new founding fathers. What were those tunnels put there for? Were they just put there for like high government officials back in the day? I kind of missed that part.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of missed it a little bit too.
Fair enough. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
But
So,
I do know they were put there by the, obviously by the original founding fathers.
The original founding fathers.
I don't know if they were during the Revolution or.
Yeah, I would have liked if they were more like Underground Railroad.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
I'm not sure if geographically you can pull that up. Like, I don't know what the Underground Railroad situation was in Washington.
Of course.
I thought that would have been a really good way to go about it,
cool.
Yeah. And you have a bunch of black people coming up from these tunnels that were meant to free slaves and slaughtering the slave masters.
Yep.
In this case, they're coming up through these tunnels that were, put there for reasons Tyler and I can't fathom. And sorry, Ty, didn't mean to call you by your full name.
And just so you know, they are called the anti-NFFA. I think that's actually their title.
Thank God we've been calling them the Resistance, because they're anti-NFA.
Yes, exactly.
That's what they are.
Oh my God, yes.
But yeah, so so they end up. Long story short, they end up saving Charlie. Unless there's anything specifically that you caught in these moments.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean they basically attack this building. We see like the ritual, right, being performed by the new founding fathers. This really bizarre like religious cult murders where they're killing people one by one, and then it's Charlie's turn, and of course she's saved by Dante Bishop and
Actually, sorry, I know that I want to rush to the end of this episode, but I have to cut you off. Because there is this interesting thing about, like, they're trying to, like you said, they're making this like a cult thing. They're making the whole thing religious, which somehow makes it better. And, like, it was a really good way, I think, and I don't know if they meant to, but just to expose the hypocrisy and the weirdness of religion, of organized religion in general.
Oh, for sure.
How, like, because you go to a church and it's constantly everyone singing the same songs, saying the same credos, talking about how they're worthless unless it's because of God, and they worship a zombie who came back after 3 days, but they eat the zombie's body by eating a fucking cracker, and then they drink the zombie's blood by getting drunk. And, like, from any outside perspective, if you were not born a Christian, is that not the weirdest fucking shit? Like,
yeah, I guess if you really break it down, right?
It's incredibly.
It's funny too, because so many people like to criticize, ancient peoples, like native peoples, like the Incas and the Aztecs, and like the different things that they would do, right? The different ceremonies they would have. But think you just look at how strange, like you said, the entire Christian symbol of eating the body of Christ and stuff. It definitely seems really strange. You can almost see that like in a horror movie, right? Like we see here.
Yes, yeah, very like ritualistic, like pagan level stuff.
We're drinking the blood of Christ, like it's like whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme. Oh yeah, and like when you do talk about like native rituals and stuff, and I don't know a lot about them, but from what I have heard, there was a chief who wrote a letter to Andrew Jackson. I want to say it was Tecumseh, but I don't know off the top of my head. And Andrew Jackson made it a point of calling himself father to all the Native Americans, which was disgusting. It was patriarchal and hierarchical and just weird. But he said, like, I'm your father. I'm here to protect you. I know what's best for you. You don't know. And this Native chief, he said, my father is the sun, and my mother is the earth. I don't have another. You're not my father. You're another man. And I think that's a pretty solid way to, like, if you're gonna have a religion, have one that like has you respect the earth for what it is, you know, and
Yeah, I agree.
you know, don't try to own it, try to coexist with it. You know, that's we'll be discussing that next month during November, where we have native specific bits of pop culture that we'll be reviewing.
Yes, can't wait.
But yeah, so sorry, rush to the end again. Go for it.
Yeah, so
on the path I put you on.
No, that's fine. So we're in this weird religious cult, and the new founding fathers are, except for the minister, which he is called minister. There's also leader. I'm not really sure what the deal is with his title. But we're all these new founding fathers.
Is leader the minister or the president? Or
No, the minister and the leader are two separate people. The leader is the one that was like in the beginning talking about Rowan, like, that bitch, we gotta kill her. And then the minister's the one that's up on stage, like, who was gonna get ready to actually perform the ritual that she's running against. So,
sorry, I'm gonna cut you off one more time talking about the minister, because the minister, who once again, sorry, hold on, let me just search up his name.
His name is Minister Hedgewidge. Edgewidge Owens. Yeah.
Then who was the one in the first movie? Movie, it was DT. They made a lot of really ballsy moves in this movie, so I'd be surprised if they changed the initials of the minister in order to not piss off the Trump
maybe
campaign,
they just change who the minister is. I don't know.
Yeah, you just might, old white guys, the turnover's
because
wild.
the leader is Caleb Warrens. I don't know what all these these things stand for.
So, but in the beginning, he's in the office and he's calling Senator Roan a cunt and stuff like that. Like, he's not hiding how he feels about his opponent. And
No,
I'm actually going to link to it in the show notes, that there's a really interesting article about how political discourse became so intertwined with hate. How, like, it's not just like, oh, I don't agree with them on that policy, but we both want what's best for the country. We're just going different, getting to it in a different way. This now it is outright hate in our politics. We hate the other person, we hate their opinions and blah blah. And this guy, he's calling all these different people all sorts of names. He calls the NFFA something. He calls the anti-NFFA something. I don't remember what he says. But it is once again very reminiscent of, like, you got to have a bad nickname for everybody, right? We got that nasty woman, and Pocahontas for Elizabeth Warren, and Crooked Hillary again for Hillary, and Sleepy Joe, Little Marco. Who are some of the others? Ted Cruz, the Zodiac Killer. I don't remember. But yeah, so the minister is going through some shit. I think he's going to be the one to try and slit Roan's throat, right?
Yeah, like, he's with this guy Harmon James, who he's dressed like a priest or a minister. I don't really not sure if he actually is.
He's not looking great.
And he's been like, he kills the guy before him with the prime minister here. But yeah, they're going to kill Roan, and then the resistance, the anti New Founding Fathers and Barnes, they show up and they pretty much annihilate all the New Founding Fathers except for the minister, right? The prime minister. He's the only one that's still alive.
But is he the prime minister? Or
I don't know.
Like another minister between them?
I don't know, because they're all dressed like ministers. It's very confusing.
They're all white. They all look the fucking same.
Yeah.
White people all look the same.
Look the same. It's true.
I fucking said it, all right? But yeah, it was wild. Like, they really, in this series, they do like to wait to the last minute when it comes to slitting someone's throat.
Yeah.
In order to save them. They've done it in at least 2 of these Purge movies. But yeah, so Leo and his group, they managed to save. It was Marco. Marco's the one who saves Roan by with his awesome rifle aim. He fucking snipes out this dude who's about to slit Roan's throat.
Yep. And they chase Minister Edgewidge, right? Edgewidge. He's like, he goes into this room.
Hedwig, yeah.
They follow him in there, and there's all these people, right? These people that are, like, tied up and disheveled, and they were all going to be victims. They were all going to be murdered on Purge night, and I think it's actually Bishop, right? That goes up to Edgewidge and he wants to kill him, right? He puts the gun to his head. And Edwidge is like, come on, do it. Like, it's your right as an American. Purge. Shoot me, kill me. Like, purge. He wants him to do it.
It's so interesting because you think that he wouldn't want to die You know, he's the candidate for president. Like, he's, you know, the candidate for the NFFA. But like I think he's become so like disillusioned with everything that like he's like, it's your right, you can kill me, like everybody can kill everybody. Like,
it's more important to him that people purge and keep following this fucking crazy cult ritual that they've created than to actually live out the night. But Bishop doesn't do it. He's able to hold himself back. He doesn't do it because again he doesn't want to kill unless he has to, right? Which we saw in the original film.
We saw it in the original. Charlie has this thing with him that I don't like. She keeps trying to take the moral high ground with him. Yeah,
I know. She becomes kind of unlikable throughout the film a little bit, but
she does. I'm kind of pissed off that at the end of the film they killed the black characters and kept like all the white saviors in place as main characters. I was like, all right, this is kind of hand off the torch here.
But you know what? They had Joe and Barnes bond here finally because. Barnes is like, I'm not so nice or not so politically correct as the senator, and he like fucking punches or kicks the minister in his privates, right?
He kicks him in the he kicks him in the nuts, dude.
And Joe's like, hell awesome. Yeah, you know, they like fist bump and shit. It was pretty funny actually.
That was nice. There is this awesome theme of solidarity, not just in this film but in all of them. How people from different groups and different classes actually find out how much more they do have in common when they are faced with a common enemy.
Yep.
Which once again is what really needs to happen with the proletariat.
With the 1%, this movie's screaming at us that
in the United States, we need to coalesce and take down the 1%.
Yep.
But there is even in the first Purge at the very end of it, there's like, you know, this one dude, he became super rich and he was like a drug dealer who took care of the neighborhood and everything. And there's his ex-girlfriend who, you know, she doesn't want to be involved with that, or her little brother involved with that. Like there's all these different people who come together in the movie, and at the very end, after they survive Purge night, which is always the best part of every film because things are so tense, and then the alarm starts ringing and nobody kills anybody.
Yeah, it's like oh well, gotta go back to Law and Order, which is funny because it's like very tense. Who's really gonna be like, oh, you killed him a minute after the Purge ended? You know, it's just like
yeah. There's no way you can know. I also wondered, like, you know, are there just like, imagine they're like, all right, officers, it's just after Purge night. You have to go to this neighborhood. There's been a bunch of shootings, and they're like, oh, we're already here.
Yep.
I wonder like how many cops are like out purging people. And this wasn't original thought, but in the first Purge, the drug dealer dude says that. He's like, they're gonna have a bunch of fucking, you know, who's to say they're not gonna have a bunch of fucking cops coming out here? And then one scene, they literally have, and it actually is a very beautiful scene. Once again, this is in the first Purge, or the first Purge. However it makes you know that it's the most recent movie, that there's a shot in a baseball field of a bunch of cops wearing masks, and they're in uniform as on the Jumbotron, there's an American flag and America the Beautiful is playing, and there's this black guy crawling to first base, and they just beat the shit out of him and fucking kill him.
Jesus
and
Christ.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because like he's just trying to get to first base. Think of all the people economically who are born on third base thinking they hit a fucking triple.
Yep.
You know? Yep. Did I say there were black? I did say the black churchgoers were in the first Purge, not in election year, right?
No, I think you said it was the first Purge. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a couple interesting quotes too, like the main character Naya. This guy tries to like pops up from a manhole and like tries to drag her in, and he's grabbing her crotch and everything, and she pepper sprays him and runs away and says, "Pussy grabbing motherfucker." I forgot what context. Oh, is when they were talking about the results, and Marissa Tomei is actually one of the characters. She's a woman who kind of helped the experiment go through and was very faithful that people wouldn't kill each other. And when they find out the statistics aren't going the way they want, she says, science does not obey the laws of politics.
Ooh.
And I really like that quote.
That is a really good quote.
Yeah, and it applies to right now, right?
Yep.
But at the very end, they're all like, the sun is rising. They're all trying to get along with their lives after this experiment.
In the first Purge?
And yeah, in the first Purge. And he says, and Naya talks to this guy, and she says, "What do we do now?" And he says, "We fight." And it's interesting because that is the first Purge.
Right.
So however many years later it is when Charlie Roan's family got purged. And 18 years later after that is when, she finally becomes president. And
Yeah.
Spoilers. Spoilers, but but even then, we don't know if she's going to do away with the purge until the next movie comes out. Like, it is a long
we don't actually
fight,
see
people.
that. Yep. Doesn't necessarily mean that she can do it, right? Just because you're president doesn't mean you have all encompassing power. It means you can make moves to move towards that, And I mean, here at the end of election year, like you said, a lot of all the main characters that are black, unfortunately, are pretty much murdered. Right? Joe gets shot and killed, fighting off.
Bishop sacrifices himself.
When the Nazis come back, and then we have a cool little knife fight between him and Barnes, and
I love a good knife fight. I think that's kind of that right now. That's my favorite type of fight to see in a movie.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Like the knife, like hand to hand is always good. Don't get me wrong. Gunfights are kind of like, you just have to depend on who's the better shot.
Yep.
It's, it's theatrical. You got to make it look good. But especially because they got rid of the cinematographer that made it look like a show on NBC from the first movie. Like we're really able to see like a good fight between them. And in the behind the scenes, the guy who played the Nazi, he was talking about how Frank Grillo actually has like a background in boxing and MMA. So he had to move so fast in order to match Leo during this fight.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought that was a pretty cool look at it. And also before we finish, there is an article in the show notes about it's from Mary Sue, and it talks about the politics of the Purge and all the movies. Not too much different from what we're doing here. I also want to mention that cheap weapons were actually intentionally put into the streets during the night of the first Purge, the first experiment. Yeah, so the NFFA put them there, and when we think about like how pallets of bricks were being left out in protesting areas, trying to incite riots, and even go back to like the CIA Contra deal with putting crack into the LA community and everything, like which since has been disproved. I'm putting quotes on that because it was disproved by the people who were being accused of making the crack epidemic happen.
Wow.
But it is interesting how this whole time we've been talking about how they turned things to their favor, and the purge is no different. They'll do whatever they have to do. But yeah, so unfortunately some pretty cool characters die. Marcos takes over the deli. What am I missing?
Roan gets elected, right? Like we see her on election day. She places her vote. And then, we see that
in May for some reason.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. It's weird. But they do show that, that she does win. She wins Florida and California, and
she
and
did
she's
win Florida. It was a landslide victory.
Yeah, she wins, and I think Marcus was watching on TV, and everyone's got hope. I'm assuming that she probably won because they were able to show that the new founding fathers were actually purging and were corrupt, and I'm assuming that won some people over. But because
that I would have liked.
Yeah,
I would have
me
liked to
too.
have seen. And in the deleted scenes, they didn't have that. I watched all the deleted scenes
because they kept Minister alive, right? So like he is alive.
Yeah,
and she, I'm gonna kick your ass on election day, and she did do it.
Yeah, but I figure like if this were our world and that was a situation between like Charlie Roan and let's say Trump or something, he would have said like, oh, she brought all of her anti-NFFA people to take me out and purge me on this night instead of like. I feel like these guys just would have spun the entire thing to their own favor and made themselves look like the victims. I mean, it's nice that didn't happen in this universe, and we see this amazing moment where Marcos is rebuilding the deli and everything as his own, and he sees the American flag as Charlie Roan wins, and it's blowing in the wind, and you fucking believe in the American dream, and you believe in democracy. That's when you hear all the stuff on TV of NFFA supporters are taking to the streets and rioting and killing and all this other stuff. Like the exact thing we're afraid is going to happen if Biden wins this election.
Which I actually wrote a note on. Yeah. Like, yeah. Like, so the very things that they claim that, we do, right. Or that the anti-NFFA people do, they're doing it, and that's funny you said that because my girlfriend actually said, a part of me hopes Trump wins because if he doesn't, I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I'm afraid of how his supporters are going to react because they're so obsessed.
I'm right there with her.
With it,
Right there with her.
Are they gonna take to the streets and start killing people and rioting and they're armed and dangerous. A lot of them are police, so it that is a scary thought. So I am curious if they're ever going to do another film that ties, that takes place after this. Because while maybe the Purge night is over, the battle's still far from over, right?
Yeah, and I did speak to you off mic about how I would have loved for them to bring all the characters from the different movies in together. I would have liked to have seen how Kenneth Michael Williams is no longer the leader of the anti-NFFA, and how Dante Bishop took over. And then, if you have Dante Bishop and the kid who saved him in the first movie, whose father died because he was purged, if you have that kid, now it's a few years later, right? He's grown up. He could very well be in the anti-NFFA, and then have the two people that Leo helped out in the second movie, or maybe even just the daughter of her, she got purged last year and now I'm ready to burn down. She was already being radicalized in that movie. I would have loved to, like I said, build a Purge Avengers, take all the main characters of the different movies, put them together, and now it's them versus the fucking NFFA, and just see where it goes from there. Another interesting thing about this franchise is that it seems to be nobody cares about the Purge until it affects them. That's another big thing. Once this stuff starts to affect you, then you gotta change it. And that's what happened with Ethan Hawke's family, and it is and it also happens in the first Purges as well. For example, in the credits of the first film, in The Purge, they actually have a bunch of radio accounts of what's happening. There's the most successful Purge on record, and there's a candlelight vigil in Times Square to honor those who gave their lives for tonight, and not too different from, guess what? We support our troops. We just got to send all these kids off to fucking die because it's just what happens, or 200,000 COVID deaths. It is what it is. That's what Trump said, right? Yep. Guess what? We got to sacrifice people for the economy. There's this guy who says, my boy was killed tonight. I used to support the Purge. I used to be a patriot. Now I'm not anymore. And I'm actually wondering, I don't think that was Leo, because it's really weird. They could have just said that his son was killed by a drunk driver during the Purge. But when he explains it, he's like, my son was killed by a drunk driver 12 months ago. Okay, so that's 1 year ago when the Purge took place. And he's like, And the guy's blood alcohol level is 3 times over the legal limit, but he got off on a technicality. I thought the franchise was okay originally, and then I, ended up really liking it recently because of just how socially relevant it is. But you can't ignore bad writing when you see it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, he got off on a technicality. I'm like, what? You could have just made that technicality The Purge. But whatever.
yeah, it's kind of funny not to mention that, but I kind of felt like he almost wasn't supposed to be on the Purge, and that he's just deciding to kill him on Purge night because he can. I don't know.
That is what they made it out to be, though. He just killed the kid on a regular afternoon at 2 p.m.
Right.
And he, the perfect excuse to get vengeance is on the day of the Purge.
Yeah. Well, speaking of writers, it's written and directed by the same person, James DeMonaco. He's from Brooklyn, New York. And it's pretty cool that he was able to, to create this whole series. And, he wrote and directed each of the films. And obviously, we talked about how he's kind of progressed it little by little, each movie. And I think Election Year was just the perfect cap on this trilogy. And just my last thought on this film is, how sad is it that there's more hope in the election in this movie than there is in our real world?
That's terribly sad. Good point.
Wow. I wish Roan was running here in the real world.
Yeah. That'd be nice. First lady president, progressive president, would have been nice. Oh, yeah. Also, the writer came up with the idea when he and his wife were cut off in traffic and almost got into a really bad car accident because of it. And, he was like, how great would it be if I was able to kill this dude and get away with it? Which we've all thought, right, in traffic.
Of course. All the time.
Yeah, all the time. So yeah, that is, it's interesting, just that little thing, he sparked this trilogy and made a conscious choice to make it socially aware. And once again, every movie they were like, maybe you didn't quite get it, let's up it a bit. Maybe you didn't quite get it, let's up it a bit again. And and then in the first Purge, they shove it right in your fucking face, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I mean, it's obvious in Purge election year. I just think the story was a little more solid in election year than it was in the first Purge.
Yeah.
They really leaned into it. Which whatever. It was still a solid movie. I'm gonna rewatch the end to see how the fucking Klan members get killed. That's gonna be great. You can find my notes on all 4 movies in the show notes and sources at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com. I think there is one slated to come out or to be, it's probably in pre-production right now. I did see it on IMDb.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm looking forward to that one. But, we're going to have to wait for a bit, obviously, because, that a movie of that scale, unless you were to do it like the 2013 film, you can't do during COVID. It's just going to be really tough to produce that, to film that.
For sure.
But yeah, this has been great. I just like fucking talking to my best friend about fucking movies.
Yeah, me too. And it's funny. I think we actually saw the Purge Anarchy together while you were house sitting, and I remember liking it. Yeah, I think we watched it at that house. And I remember I really liked it. And, no, I don't think so. I think we saw those. Might have seen this episode. I'm not sure though, but it was just so not memorable. But I really loved Anarchy, and then I loved Election Year. So it made me a fan of the series. Unfortunately, I have not seen the first Purge, but I will see it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they're all worth it. I would implore you to rewatch the first one and see what you can pick apart from it. There's a lot more there than I initially realized, and I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I think I'll probably enjoy it more now. So I'll definitely.
Yeah, you would definitely enjoy it a lot more now. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, cool. Like, get to the fucking. I'd seen Anarchy before, so I was like, I'd rather I want to see everyone fucking. Going crazy and stuff.
Right.
And but this the first one is definitely a lot more subtle. Oh, they also mentioned that that Dallas had the most participants in the Ethan Hawke one.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that to me off mic.
Yes. A lot of people profiting off of it. And just to close it off, I think what sucks is just that that people are more concerned with being considered patriots than being good people. And when you have to compare yourself to the patriots of old, they don't hold up. So don't worry about being a patriot. Don't worry about loving a country that doesn't love you back. Love that country and fight for it when it earns that sort of respect.
Yep.
But, don't just love it because you happen to fucking be born here. You don't need to have pride for something you never achieved. Or something you didn't have to work for. So that's that. Care about, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We should have learned how to pledge allegiance to the people of the United States of America instead of pledging allegiance to the flag.
Amen.
And please remember to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. That way you can find exclusive content like our videos. Find us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod, Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast, email us at PolitiPopcast@gmail.com. And special thanks to all of your listeners and all of our new followers on Twitter and, everyone who's downloading the episode, showing their support. And also thanks to Antonia Chava for logo design for the PolitiPop Podcast. I've been Mike Booch.
And I've been Ty.
And remember, no matter what you are watching, no matter what you're choosing to scare yourself with this month, no matter what you're reading, no matter what you're listening to, please never stop thinking, never stop learning, and read between the lines.
And scene.
Thank you.